Listen, if you thought you knew the truth about what happened in Zanzibar, you need to sit down, turn up your volume, and prepare for the kind of chill that stays in your bones long after the screen goes black. We are standing at the edge of a digital explosion because the Queen of Tea, Tasha K, has reportedly just dropped the nuclear option. We aren't just talking about rumors anymore. We are talking about the cold, hard, blue bubble reality of text messages sent by the very person being labeled as Ashlee Jenae's killer, sent in those final, haunting hours before her light was extinguished forever. Can you imagine the sheer audacity of someone smiling for the camera while typing out the very blueprints of a nightmare? These alleged leaks don't just bridge the gaps in the timeline, they tear the entire official story to shreds. Was Ashlee walking into a romantic getaway, or was she being led into a carefully constructed trap by someone she trusted with her soul? The internet is spiraling, the receipts are screaming, and the shadows behind Joe Macken are getting darker by the second. Tonight, we aren't just scrolling through headlines. We are peeling back the skin of a beautiful lie to expose the rot underneath. Keep watching, because once you see these messages, there is absolutely no going back to the version of the story you were sold. The situation surrounding Ashlee Jenae is no longer just a headline or a trending topic on your feed because it has officially crossed into the territory of a full-blown investigative nightmare. When we first heard about the tragic events in Zanzibar, the narrative was painted with the brush of a freak accident, a sudden medical crisis that took a vibrant young woman away from us far too soon. But as the days turned into weeks, the silence from the inner circle began to feel heavy, and that silence has finally been shattered by the loudest voice in the industry. Tasha K has reportedly stepped into the arena with a folder full of digital receipts that turn this entire case upside down. We are talking about text messages that were allegedly sent by the individual now being pinpointed as the primary person of interest in Ashlee's final moments. These aren't just casual check-ins or romantic whispers between a fiancé and his bride-to-be. These are cold, calculated, and deeply disturbing exchanges that suggest a level of premeditation and malice that the public was never supposed to find out about. The rumors of what was happening behind the scenes in that luxury accommodation are starting to leak out like poison into a clear lake. According to these explosive new reports, Joe Macken wasn't just a grieving partner, he was a man operating under a mask that was slipping long before they even landed in Tanzania. Sources close to the situation, who are now coming out of the shadows because they can no longer stomach the lies, claim that the atmosphere between Ashlee and Joe was toxic at a level we can't even comprehend. We are hearing stories of intense financial gatekeeping. These leaked texts reportedly show a side of Joe Macken that is unrecognizable to those who only knew him through the lens of a camera. The messages allegedly reveal a man obsessed with control, someone who was tracking her every move and questioning her every interaction even while they were supposed to be celebrating their future. There is one specific exchange being whispered about in the deepest corners of the internet, where he allegedly told her that she would never leave that island the same way she arrived. If that doesn't send a shiver down your spine, I don't know what will. It suggests that the tragedy wasn't a sudden twist of fate, but a destination. The level of corruption and cover-up being suggested here is astronomical. How does a young woman die in a foreign country under such suspicious circumstances, and the first response isn't a massive criminal probe? It's because power and money have a way of greasing the wheels of silence. There are whispers of local authorities being influenced, of hotel staff being told to look the other way when the shouting matches became too loud to ignore, and of a timeline that was scrubbed clean before the first reporter even arrived on the scene. But you can't scrub the digital footprint. You can't delete the energy of a woman who knew she was in danger. Tasha K's involvement changes the game, because she doesn't play. People are reacting with a mix of fury and absolute heartbreak. They are looking at their own relationships and wondering how many other Ashlees are out there right now, trapped in a beautiful cage, with a predator who knows how to use the right filters. The comment sections are on fire with users demanding justice, pointing out the inconsistencies in Joe's statements, and calling for a full exhumation of the facts. There is a sense that we are witnessing the beginning of a massive fall from grace. This isn't just about one couple anymore. It's about the culture of silence that protects men with resources while women pay the ultimate price. The lavish spending that was seen on that trip is now being viewed as the final payment for a life, a disgusting display of wealth used to mask a crumbling moral foundation. Every photo of an expensive dinner or a private villa now feels like a slap in the face to the memory of a woman who just wanted to be loved. Anonymous sources who claim to have worked at the resort are now allegedly sending tips to investigative bloggers, describing scenes that sound like they were ripped out of a psychological thriller. They speak of Ashlee being seen crying in the lobby, of Joe pulling her away from conversations with other guests, and of a general sense of unease that hung over their villa like a shroud. If these witnesses are telling the truth, then the official narrative of a peaceful vacation is a total fabrication. It's a lie sold to the public to prevent an international scandal. But the scandal is already here, and it's bigger than anyone anticipated. The corruption doesn't just stop at the relationship level. It extends to everyone who stood by and did nothing while a tragedy unfolded in slow motion. We have to look at the history here, because people like Joe Macken don't just become monsters overnight. There are always breadcrumbs, always past victims or former associates who saw the red flags, but were too intimidated to speak up. The public reaction is shifting from mourning to a demand for blood. People want to see handcuffs, they want to see a courtroom, and they want to see the people who helped hide the truth held accountable. There is a growing movement online to boycott any business or individual associated with Joe, a digital exile for anyone who continues to support him in the face of these allegations. The pressure is mounting on the authorities to reopen the case with a focus on criminal intent rather than accidental death. Because when you have text messages that talk about a final day before that day even happens, you aren't looking at an accident anymore. You are looking at a crime. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. As we move deeper into section 1 of this exposure, we have to realize that the players involved are desperate. Desperate people do desperate things, and the attempts to silence Tasha K. or anyone else talking about these messages are only going to intensify. But the genie is out of the bottle. The digital receipts have been screenshot, shared, and archived in 1,000 different places. The truth about Ashlee Jenae is fighting its way to the surface, and it's bringing the receipts that Joe Mack. The weight of these allegations is so heavy that it's starting to crush the social circles they once moved in. Friends are picking sides, or more accurately, they are running for the hills to avoid being tainted by the association. The luxury lifestyle they flaunted has become a symbol of everything wrong with the influencer era, where the appearance of success is valued more than human life itself. As we transition into the next layer of this scandal, the focus is shifting toward the specific breakdown of those final hours, where the tension reportedly reached a breaking point that resulted in the unthinkable. Every word in those leaked texts is a nail in the coffin of the old narrative, and as we look closer at the sequence of events, the picture becomes even more terrifying than the rumors suggested. The breakdown of the story doesn't just stop with the existence of these messages, because the content of the messages themselves is where the nightmare truly takes shape and form. As we move into this second layer of the exposure, the focus shifts from the general tension to the specific, minute-by-minute disintegration of Ashlee's safety. According to the reports being amplified by Tasha K. and several high-level investigative insiders, the leaked texts from Joe Macken show a man who was spiraling into a state of possessive mania. One of the most disturbing sequences of messages reportedly occurred just 36 hours before Ashlee was found. The investigation into these digital receipts suggests that Joe was allegedly monitoring Ashlee's phone through some sort of tracking software or shared cloud access, which explains how he knew about conversations she was having with her family back home. In one particular message that has the internet in a total uproar, he reportedly told her that if she thought she was going back to the States to tell her side of the story, she was sadly mistaken. This isn't just a lover's quarrel, this is evidence of a mindset that is fixed on a permanent solution to a temporary problem. The public is now dissecting every syllable of these leaks, and the consensus is growing that Ashlee knew she was in a trap. She reportedly sent a message to a close friend saying that, "Let's talk about the luxury and the corruption that served as the backdrop for this horror." Investigative findings are now suggesting that the trip to Zanzibar was funded through a series of suspicious financial moves that Joe was desperate to keep hidden. There are reports of credit card fraud, identity theft within their own social circle, and a mountain of debt that was about to come crashing down on their heads. If Ashlee had found out about the extent of the financial rot, she would have had the power to ruin his reputation forever. In the world of high-stakes social climbing, a ruined reputation is a fate worse than death. The theory circulating now is that Joe wasn't just acting out of jealousy, he was acting out of a desperate need to keep his financial crimes buried. Public reactions to these findings have been visceral. People are calling Joe Macken a digital demon, who used the cover of a romantic fiancé to hide the heart of a grifter. The contrast between the images of them sipping champagne on a private boat and the reality of him allegedly typing threats into his phone is a jarring reminder of how fake the influencer world truly is. We are seeing a massive wave of anonymous sources coming forward, claiming that Joe would often spend thousands of dollars on props for their photos while their actual bills went unpaid. This culture of fake wealth creates a pressure cooker environment where one wrong move can lead to an explosion. The investigative reports also highlight the role of the people surrounding them on that island. Why was there no intervention? According to leaked statements from hotel employees who are now talking to independent bloggers, the shouting matches from their villa were so frequent that they became background noise. There are allegations that Joe spent a significant amount of money tipping the staff to ensure that no one reported the disturbances to the local police. This is where the corruption gets deep. If you have enough cash to throw around in a place where the local economy is struggling, you can buy a lot of silence. But you can't buy the silence of the internet once the receipts start moving. The internet is a global detective agency that doesn't take bribes, and right now, every single user is looking for the crack in Joe's armor. The fallout from these leaked messages has also hit the media personalities who were slow to report on the case. People are questioning why mainstream outlets were so hesitant to label this as suspicious while independent voices like Tasha K were willing to put their necks on the line. It creates a narrative of us versus them, where the public feels like they are the only ones fighting for Ashlee's justice. This has led to a surge in vigilante-style digital investigating, where users are tracking Joe's past locations, his former business partners, and even his old social media comments to build a profile of a killer. The consensus is that Joe has been practicing this behavior for years, refining his ability to manipulate and control until he finally met someone he couldn't break. So he decided to end her instead. As we look at the specific texts that were sent on the final night, the story gets even darker. There is a report of a message sent from Joe's phone to an unknown recipient at 3 a.m., stating that it's handled. What was handled? Was it a business deal, or was it the life of the woman sleeping in the room next to him? The ambiguity is intentional in the eyes of the public. They see it as a confession wrapped in a riddle. When you combine this with the reports that Joe was seen at the airport looking calm and collected just hours after the incident, the picture of a sociopath becomes complete. A man who just lost the love of his life shouldn't be worried about his flight status or checking his reflection in the terminal window, yet that is exactly what witnesses are describing. The abuse of power here isn't just about Joe, it's about the system that allowed him to operate. He allegedly used Ashlee's name to secure loans and sponsorships, effectively making her an unwilling accomplice in his own corruption. When she began to pull back and demand transparency, he reportedly turned up the heat. The leaked messages show a pattern of gaslighting that is masterclass level. He would allegedly tell her she was crazy for questioning him, that she was ruining the brand by having emotions, and that she owed him her loyalty because of the lifestyle he provided. It's the classic narrative of an abuser who thinks he owns the person he's with. But Ashlee wasn't an object. she was a human being who was clearly reaching her breaking point. The public backlash is now extending to the brands that partnered with Jo in the past. People are flooding their comment sections, demanding to know why they supported a man with such a clear history of red flags. The financial crisis for Joe Macken has already begun, as his sponsors drop him like a hot coal, and his accounts are reportedly being frozen pending further investigation into his business dealings. But the money is secondary to the blood on his hands. The internet wants more than just his bankruptcy, they want his freedom. They want to see him sitting in a cell, forced to reckon with the messages he thought would be deleted forever. Every new detail that emerges from these leaks acts as a catalyst for more outrage. We are hearing about private receipts for cleaning supplies and extra luggage purchased just days before the trip ended. Why would a couple on a luxury vacation need heavy-duty cleaning supplies? The theories are becoming more gruesome by the hour, and while some might seem far-fetched, they all point back to the same conclusion: this was not a tragedy of chance. This was a tragedy of choice. Joe Macken allegedly chose his reputation over Ashlee's life, and he used every tool at his disposal to try and make the world believe his version of the story. The tension is building toward a massive legal showdown. Reports suggest that legal teams are already being assembled to challenge the initial findings in Zanzibar, with the goal of bringing the case to a neutral territory where the evidence can be weighed without the influence of local bribes. The leaked messages are the cornerstone of this new push for justice. They provide the motive, the intent, and the terrifying glimpse into the mind of a man who thought he was smarter than the digital age. But as we move into the final phase of this exposure, it's becoming clear that the digital trail is a trap that Joe Macken set for himself. He thought he was deleting his tracks, but he was actually leaving a map for the world to follow straight to the truth of what happened to Ashlee Jenae. The story continues to escalate because the truth doesn't just want to be heard, it wants to be vindicated. As the final layer of this investigation peels back, we find ourselves staring into a void where the consequences of these alleged actions are finally catching up with the man who thought he could outrun the internet. The transition from the digital leaks to the real-world fallout has been instantaneous and brutal. According to reports circulating within high-level legal circles, there is now a massive, multi-jurisdictional push to bring Joe Macken to justice in a way that bypasses the local hurdles in Zanzibar. We are hearing about the potential involvement of international agencies that specialize in crimes committed against citizens abroad, and if these reports are true, the walls are closing in on Joe faster than he can delete his search history. The fallout isn't just a social media storm anymore. It is becoming a legal hurricane that threatens to destroy everyone who played a part in the initial cover-up. There are whispers of grand jury preparations and a secret list of witnesses who are finally ready to testify about what they saw in the hallways of that resort. The consequences of these leaked messages are stretching into the financial sector as well. New investigative findings suggest that the authorities are looking into a web of shell companies and offshore accounts that Joe allegedly used to fund his lifestyle and potentially pay for the silence of those around him. This is where the corruption meets the crime. If he was using stolen funds to facilitate a trip that ended in a tragedy, the charges could multiply into a life sentence before he even sets foot in a courtroom for the primary incident. The public is watching with bated breath, as his assets are reportedly being seized and his inner circle begins to crumble. We are seeing former associates posting cryptic messages on their stories, distancing themselves from the brand they once helped build. It's a classic case of rats fleeing a sinking ship, and Joe is left standing on the deck alone, clutching a phone full of evidence that he can no longer deny. Public backlash has reached a fever pitch that is starting to affect the very structure of the influencer industry. There is a widespread demand for new regulations and transparency when it comes to sponsored lifestyles that mask domestic instability and criminal behavior. The case of Ashlee Jenae has become the catalyst for a movement that says no more to the fake perfection that protects predators. This isn't just about a single influencer anymore. It is a full-scale rebellion against the culture of silence. Protests have been reported outside the offices of the agencies that represented Joe, and the digital campaign for justice has reached billions of impressions across multiple platforms. The internet has become the judge, jury, and executioner of his reputation, and the verdict is unanimous. People are no longer asking if he did it, they are asking when he will be forced to answer for it. The hypothetical probes are not just limited to Joe's personal life. There are reports of investigations into the resort itself, questioning their safety protocols and their response time on the night Ashlee was found. If it is proven that staff members were bribed to ignore the signs of distress, the resort could face a total shutdown and international sanctions. This adds a layer of corporate accountability to the story that we haven't seen in viral cases like this before. It shows that the reach of this tragedy goes far beyond a single relationship. It is exposing a system that values the comfort of wealthy tourists over the lives of the women who are brought there under false pretenses. The corruption is deep, but the public's memory is long, and the pressure is not going to let up until every person who looked the other way is named and shamed. As we look at the potential for a financial crisis within Joe's empire, the irony is glaring. The very wealth he allegedly used to control Ashlee is now the thing that will be used to fund the investigation against him. Every dollar he spent on those luxury dinners is being traced, and every flight he took is being logged. The paper trail is just as damning as the digital one. Sources suggest that Joe is currently in a state of total isolation, abandoned by his legal team and his former friends, waiting for the knock on the door that everyone knows is coming. The psychological toll of being the most hated man on the internet is reportedly starting to show, with reports of him attempting to negotiate deals for his safety that are being flatly rejected by everyone he contacts. The story of Ashlee Jenae is reaching a point where the silence of the official investigators is starting to speak louder than any statement they could release. When a case is this clear to the public, but remains under investigation by the authorities, it creates a vacuum that is filled with even more explosive theories. Some believe that a massive whistleblower from within Joe's family is about to come forward with the smoking gun evidence that will put this case to bed once and for all. This person is allegedly someone who has been living in fear of Joe for years and sees Ashlee's tragedy as their only chance to escape his control. If this happens, the narrative will shift from a mystery to a complete dismantling of a criminal legacy. The emotional weight of the conclusion is starting to settle in. We are seeing tributes to Ashlee that focus on her strength and her desire for a better life, contrasting sharply with the cold, calculated images of Joe. The community is coming together to ensure that her name isn't just a footnote in a scandal, but a symbol of the fight for truth. There are calls to establish a foundation in her honor that helps women in similar high-stakes, abusive relationships escape before it's too late. This is the ultimate fallout for a man like Joe Macken. Not only will he lose his freedom, but his attempt to silence Ashlee has resulted in her voice becoming a permanent part of the global conversation. What happens next is anyone's guess, but the momentum is undeniable. The government probes, the financial freezes, and the public outcry are all converging on a single point of impact. We are looking at a future where Joe Macken is a cautionary tale, a ghost story told to influencers about the dangers of believing your own lies. The corruption that allowed him to thrive is being burned away by the light of the truth, and the ashes are all that will be left of the life he built. Every message revealed by Tasha, every receipt uncovered by the digital detectives, and every tear shed for Ashlee is a step toward a world where this can never happen again. The final moments of this investigation are not about the if, but the when. When will the formal charges be filed? When will the full, unedited messages be released to the public? And when will Ashlee's family finally be able to sleep knowing that the man responsible is behind bars? The anticipation is thick enough to cut with a knife. This isn't just a video or a script. It is a real-time battle between a powerful lie and a persistent truth. And if history has taught us anything about the internet, it's that the truth always wins in the end, no matter how many bribes are paid or how many hashtags are suppressed. The fallout is inevitable. The consequences are coming. And as we close this chapter of the investigation, we do so with the knowledge that we have done our part in keeping the flame of justice alive. We have refused to accept the easy answers, we have questioned the powerful, and we have stood by the evidence. Joe Macken might have had the money and the influence, but the public has the truth, and that is a currency he can never afford. The investigation continues, the voices grow louder, and the countdown to justice has officially begun. Stay alert, because the next update won't just be a report, it will be a revolution. We have arrived at the end of the timeline that Joe Macken tried to control, but the story is far from over in the hearts of those who demand answers. The corruption, the lavish spending, and the abuse of power were all just layers of a mask that has now been ripped away for the world to see. Every financial probe and every legal inquiry is a testament to the fact that you cannot hide a tragedy in plain sight and expect the world to look away. The narrative of Ashlee Jenae is now written in the digital ink of these leaked messages. A permanent record of a life taken, and a truth fought for. The tension has reached its peak, the anticipation is at its maximum, and the world is ready for the final verdict. If there was ever a time to realize that the people we follow online are not always who they pretend to be, it is right now. This case has stripped away the glamour of the influencer world and revealed the jagged edges underneath. As we wait for the official hammer of justice to fall, we carry the memory of Ashlee with us, a reminder that every voice matters in the pursuit of what is right. The legacy of this scandal will be the destruction of a predator and the elevation of a victim's story into a global call for change. The end is near for those who hide in the shadows, and the light is only getting brighter. The weight of everything we've discussed, the leaked messages, the terrifying patterns of behavior, and the blatant corruption, all points to one unavoidable conclusion. This was never just a trip to Zanzibar. This was the final act of a man who thought he was untouchable. But the internet has shown him that no one is beyond the reach of the truth. As the legal systems of two different worlds begin to grind together to produce a result, we stand witness to the power of a community that refuses to be silenced. The story of Ashlee Jenae is no longer just her own, it belongs to everyone who believes that justice is worth fighting for, no matter how deep the secret. It is time to face the reality that the truth isn't always clean, and it isn't always easy to hear. But it is necessary. Every report of a probe, every rumor of a resignation, and every financial crisis hitting the Macken empire is a victory for the facts. We are moving toward a conclusion that will shake the very foundations of social media and the legal protections afforded to the elite. The countdown is on, the evidence is in, and the world is watching. There is no escape from the digital footprint, and there is no hiding from the collective conscience of a world that has seen enough. The final truth is coming, and it will be louder than anything we've heard yet. If this story made you feel a knot in your stomach, you are not alone, because we are witnessing the cold, digital dissection of a life taken too soon. We've looked at the leaked messages, the alleged financial rot, and the chilling behavior of a man who thought paradise could hide his darkest secrets. But as the walls close in on Joe Macken, and the truth about Ashlee Jenae finally begins to breathe, the most important voice in this entire investigation belongs to you. Do you believe these leaked messages are the final nail in the coffin for the official accident narrative? Or is the web of corruption and bribes in Zanzibar deep enough to let a killer walk free? The internet never forgets, and it certainly doesn't stop until justice is served. Drop your theories in the comments below, because your perspective is what keeps this case alive and the pressure mounting. If you are ready to stand with us as we expose the rot behind the filters, hit that like button right now to show the world that Ashlee's story won't be silenced. Subscribe and turn on those notifications, because when the next set of receipts drops or the handcuffs finally click, you need to be the first to know. Share this video everywhere, let's make sure there is nowhere left for the shadows to hide. Stay tuned, stay questioning, and never stop demanding the truth.